Believe in Bigfoot? Dogman? Any cryptid? Are you skeptical?
Curious about the supernatural, conspiracy theories, the unknown? Then come join us as we explore facts, tall tales, and encounters on Creatures and Curiosities.
Welcome to Creatures and Curiosities. I'm David.
I'm Jake.
And in today's episode, we'll be talking about a personal interaction, I guess you could say, with Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, but before we get into today's topic, I actually had something that happened about a week ago that kind of brought perspective, at least to me.
Yeah.
So I'm standing at the back door, right? And I'm looking out into my yard and I see this beautiful male pheasant.
Oh, nice.
And he's huge. I mean, this is dinner for two.
Yeah.
Easy. And this guy's walking across my backyard. And so I thought, I'm going to get a picture of that just because I hardly ever have any pheasant on my property. So I go outside, phone in hand, camera app already opened. I'm ready to shoot this bird.
Right.
Well, he spots me, so he takes off running, and he's running towards my fence line. So I try and get a picture, but he's so far away that it's kind of grainy.
How far, if you had to guess?
Oh, at least 150 to 200 feet.
Okay.
And so I head out, and I start kind of tracking him. And he runs from me, and he runs to my fence line. Well, under the fence, there's this tall grass. So he's hiding in the grass. I see that he hasn't crossed over to the adjacent property. So I know he's holding.
Yeah.
So I walk down the fence line a little bit. And as I get closer and closer and closer to him, I'm really trying to be quiet, I'm going to guess within 3 to 5 feet of this bird, and he breaks cover. Scares the bejeebits out of me, and he's flapping his wings. And as he takes off flying, I raise up my phone. I've got it on burst mode. So I shoot 50 shots of this bird as he's flying away. No more than 5 feet from me, right? But he flies across the adjacent property and lands over in the tree line. So kind of, semi-excited about it. I go into the house to check out my photos.
Yeah.
Nothing. There's nothing. So this bird completely blended in because I'm shooting his hind end, and he's brown at the back.
3 feet away.
3 feet away. He blends into the tree line. He blends into the grass line. You can't see it at all. There's like this semi-blur of something in the photograph. But clearly, you can't tell what it is, right? And so as I scroll through all the pictures, it kind of dawns on me. This gives me a complete new perspective on these Bigfoot pictures and stuff. First off, I know I'm not crazy, okay? Secondly, I know that this was not misidentification. I saw the bird.
Right.
I know what it was.
You've bird hunted pheasant before.
I bird hunt. This is definitely a rooster. He's beautiful. He's big. But in the end, I couldn't prove it. If I'd have told somebody I saw a huge pheasant in my yard and they said, "Oh, did you get a picture?" I'd be like, well, I tried, but no, there's no picture. And so I started thinking, how many people are out in the woods with a camera in hand, ready to shoot a picture when Bigfoot appears?
No, they're probably scrambling in their pocket to yank it out, then to get to the camera app, which takes another few seconds unless you have a quick button, which still there's that delay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking, these people probably enter into the fight or flight mode, right? You're going to have some people that, if you did see Bigfoot, you're going to either freeze and stand there and stare and not know what to do. You're going to run for your life, or you're going to do everything you can, like we would do, to shoot the picture and possibly die at the hands of some creature just for the proof of it all.
Hoping that someone would find your dead body with the phone and go through it to see if you got it.
And then I think about, okay, so you do shoot the picture. Now it's either too far away, it's grainy, it's crappy picture, And nobody believes you anyway.
You post it you read all the comments of the pictures that get posted nowadays, and it's like, you can't catch one single picture.
Which is exactly what happened, right? So if you got a good picture, you're a hoaxer.
Yep.
If you have a grainy picture, you're a horrible photographer and a moron.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so I started thinking, there's thousands of Bigfoot sightings over time. There's been thousands. How many are unreported? So if you think about the thousands that are done on the BFRO page, how many people saw something and never reported it?
Probably at least half the numbers of reported sightings. There's got to be at least half of unreported.
That's the way I see it. At least half, if not more, because most people are afraid that people are going to chalk them up as
and then they start
lunatic.
questioning themselves, like, oh, maybe did I see what I thought I saw? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Exactly. Or they're just embarrassed.
Exactly. And they don't want people to think they're a psycho, right? And so if you take all these reportings, just the ones that are reported, not everybody is crazy, right? Not everybody is crazy.
Even if it's only a small percentage of that's not crazy, there's still that small percentage of thousands of cases.
Right.
Which would make hundreds of cases that are valid.
Exactly. And then you have professional people that make a living making observations, police officers and firemen and EMTs and pilots and
fish and game guys.
And all these people are not crazy, and it's not all misidentification, right? Not everybody saw a bear in the woods and said, oh, it's Bigfoot. That's just kind of ludicrous to even think that that's the case. Now, a significant amount could be that, and I'll give you that. But out of the thousands, if there was just one person, just one out of 1,000 reportings that wasn't a nut, didn't misidentify what they saw, whether they got a picture or didn't get a picture of it, that has to mean that Bigfoot exists.
It's out there. Exactly.
It's out there. If one person out of 1,000 actually saw it, then it exists.
Exactly.
And so this pheasant just brought all that to me in this encapsulated moment that I know I'm not crazy, and I couldn't get a picture of it, and I couldn't prove it to save my life. And think how many people are out there that saw Bigfoot, have a crappy picture, and they've been chalked up as a lunatic.
Because you're right when you say if pheasants didn't exist and you took that picture of someone, they'd go, yeah, okay, this guy's a nut.
Yeah.
He has no idea what he's talking about. I see a blur.
Exactly.
I see grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your boss is like, well, we're going to have to let you go because you're kind of a nut.
Yeah.
And
we have to have you do a psych eval to make sure that you're okay.
It's just terrible. But anyway, I thought I'd throw that out there. That
it's good for people to know. Yeah.
There are so many people that just say, well, there's non-believers, there's believers, and there's skeptics, right? I've always put myself in the skeptic category, that it could exist, but because I've never seen it, and there's clearly been no, I would say, evidence that it exists other than, there are footprints. There's been hair that's been undetermined what it is.
Which makes no sense. We have every species basically on the planet that we know that exists. We have a form of DNA or something that we can refer to. Right.
Right. And so when they say that this has been undetermined as to what this actually is, well,
you can't write that off as nothing.
You can't write it off as nothing. Exactly. So it's a Bigfoot. That's the bottom line.
It's got to be.
Yeah. So my skepticism, as I would say, I'm leaning more towards believing that they do exist. Now, you could get into a massive debate over what is it, right? Is it some Neanderthal type creature that, lived through the existence of whatever? Is it a demonic spirit?
Interdimensional being of some kind?
Interdimensional, is it an alien? Is it just an ape, that escaped from the zoo and multiplied and, now they're out there in the wild and not supposed to be in North America, but they're here. I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what it is. But the purpose of this particular episode is to give my account of what actually happened on my property.
Yeah.
So you ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
Okay. So we moved into this house,
And I'm on acreage near a river. I'd say, a really good stone's throw away from the water's edge.
Yeah.
Got a ditch that goes through, carries a lot of water that comes off the river, and then the river's just on the other side of that. And I think what's ended up, or what I'm believing at this point, is that we kind of named this episode the Bigfoot Crossing, because I think that Bigfoot is actually using my property as a thoroughfare for a water source.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And I have a ton of wildlife on my property. We've had foxes. I've videotaped cougars. I've got 30 to 100 deer in my yard every day, eating my horse's hay and driving me up the wall, I've had coyotes and, you name it. I've had it. I had a grizzly in my garage one day. I went to go pick my daughter from school and left the garage door and came home. Boom, there it is, trying to get into a freezer.
Borderline anything of the wilds that Montana can offer you've had in your backyard.
Basically so. I think the only thing I haven't had so far is a wolf and like a wolverine or something,
Right.
Who seems to be more elusive than Bigfoot, because I have never seen a wolverine in the wild yet. But anyway, we moved into this place in late 2012. And I'm going to say that just within a few months, I know it was still, winters in Montana are long and cold. And I know it was still relatively cold outside, and there might have even been some snow on the ground. But, that can bring you up through April, sometimes even May. So I don't remember exactly the month, but I know it was early 2013. So I'm standing outside, just kind of enjoying the view and having a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden, I hear out to my west this I can't even describe it. Okay, this wasn't Bobo on Finding Bigfoot doing a call. This thing was like prehistoric. The glottal throttling of this creature screaming was uncanny. I've just never heard anything like it in my life.
It's hard to tell with open spaces in the woods and time of day, but if you had to guess, how far would you say it was away? If you could guess.
Yeah,
it's hard to tell with those.
It is hard to tell with the way things echo.
Because even like elk bugling, they're so loud that...
They are. And as loud as this thing was, I'm saying it could be a mile or two away, easy.
Yeah.
I think that sound would carry. This thing was deep. It was loud. Kind of like when you watch Jurassic Park and they always have the T-Rex and he bellows out, that's kind of what it was. It was so loud, it just pierced the air. And you could almost feel it in your bones, It was just absolutely insane. Never heard anything like it. And before everybody writes me off as a nut, I have a dairy close by. I've heard, cattle birthing. I've heard screams of coyotes and owls and eagles and you name it. I hunt, I fish. We've been out. You and I have been out a million times.
Oh, yeah.
How many times do you hear stuff in the wild?
All the time, yeah.
But you know what it is, right? It's fairly easy to identify most animal sounds. And even though if you've never heard a cow giving birth, a lot of times, in the middle of the night, 2 a.m, and you hear this screaming and moaning outside, it's kind of chilling, but at the same time you go, oh, poor little mama cow's giving birth,
Exactly.
You know what it is.
Right.
I didn't know what this was. This was something, I know what it was. It was a Bigfoot. That's what it was. In my opinion, it was a Bigfoot, and it was screaming, and it was unbelievable. So fast forward to spring of 2013. I don't tell anybody about it, But my daughter, I have several children, and this is my youngest, and she was still living with us before she left to go to school. And it's springtime. She's out with the horses. Well, she comes running in, and she tells me, Dad, I just heard a Bigfoot. And I'm like, no way. And she's like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying no way as in I don't believe you. I heard it too, just like a couple months back. And I didn't tell anybody about it because, well, first off, my wife is not a skeptic. She's a total unbeliever, right?
Right.
And so I always hate to think that everybody thinks that I'm insane.
And plus, you don't want to, you guys haven't been here long at the time. You don't want to scare them. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
they think they're going to get mauled by something when they go on the back porch.
Exactly. Although it did get to that point, over time, over this story. But so anyway, yeah, so my daughter says, Dad, that I know that it was a Bigfoot, because she used to love to watch Monster Quest and Finding Bigfoot and all these
shows.
different things with
exactly.
me. And they try their best to do the vocalizations. And, even though Bobo and Cliff and all these people, they just go out and scream in the woods. There have been, at least they've played some of the vocalizations, right? And so I'd say that it was similar to that, but more almost like I said, prehistoric. It was just like something that you've just
It doesn't
never
sound
before.
human.
Yes.
Right.
And it doesn't sound like a gorilla or, I've watched a lot of documentaries on like silverbacks and stuff. They're terrifying, right? I wouldn't want to meet one in the wild. But it's not the same vocalization. It's just, this was different.
Plus, I'm not sure how many gorillas are running around the woods of Montana either. So
Yeah, exactly. They'd be just as rare as a Bigfoot. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I kind of take it to heart. And so at that point, I had told probably a few people that, hey, I heard what was clearly something huge and frightening, out west of my property. And my daughter heard the same. And you get the same look from everybody, the raised eyebrow and the, okay,
Oh, you're one of those people. Yeah.
This guy, kind of thing. So I let it go. Well, time passes, don't really see or hear anything. And I thought, well, it must have been an isolated incident, or it was a Bigfoot passing through and they're gone. Well, it's the summer of 2016 now, right? So about 3 years later, I'm standing in the kitchen, looking out the window. I think I'm doing dishes or something at the sink, and I'm staring out towards the horses. And it is evening. It's not completely dark outside, but it's starting to get a little bit dark. And I see my wife like running. And when I say she's running, okay, now I've never seen my wife run. 25, 26 years worth of, maybe a brisk walk to get out of the rain or something.
Right.
But she's like an Olympian sprinter at this point, just booking to the house, slapping her feet on the sidewalk so loud I can hear it from inside, And then I've got an overweight Australian shepherd who's very aggressive, and we're always worried that he's going to bite somebody. And the dog's racing her in. I can see the whites of his eyes. He's terrified, right? So she and the dog blow into the backyard or back door, coming off the back of the house. And before I could even ask her, what's going on, she yells. I mean, she's like, I've never seen her so terrified. She yells, "There's something huge in our driveway." And I said, "Well, what's huge?" And she said, "It's like 7 or 8 feet tall. It's black, it's hairy, and it's just standing there by our back door." Well, my driveway is like I don't even know, 1/8 of a mile long or something. It's not like a typical residential driveway where, it's 40 feet long. It's a long driveway, and it comes up to, I guess, the side of the house. And we have an entryway off the side of the house. And she says it's standing right there, and I don't know what it is. Well, I'm thinking, holy smokes, the Bigfoot. She got to witness a Bigfoot, right? I mean, what else? Tell me what in the wild is 7 to 8 feet tall, black and hairy and huge. So I guess we could go grizzly bear
On
right?
its hind legs for some
On
reason
its
in your
hind
driveway.
legs. Yeah, maybe in an attack mode or something.
Yeah.
But it made no noise, no vocalizations. It didn't go after her. Most bears get triggered when you're running. Most bears don't like dogs.
It would either attack or it'd get scared and run quickly.
One of the two, something would happen, but I'm thinking, okay, 7 to 8 foot tall, this, it's gotta be a Bigfoot. So excited and slightly horrified, I go running out the back door. Well, there's nothing there. I mean, like no evidence of anything there either, and of course it's summertime, so the ground is hard. There's no snow. I don't see any tracks coming in. Plus it's an asphalt driveway. And so I thought, well, I do have a big barn and maybe it went to the barn. So I grab a flashlight, grab a firearm, run out, and I search my entire property. And I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing anywhere. And, the way I'm seeing it is let's just say it was a bear and it was running. Okay. So I know a bear can run pretty quick, right? 35 miles an hour or something like that in a dead sprint.
Yep.
And so they could book off the property pretty quick. But I really don't believe that my wife and that dog scared this thing off. It scared them into the house. So even if it did run, I would think, not 100%, but I would think that I would at least see it still running because my property's large enough that it's not going to run off the property in a matter of seconds. And I was outside within seconds.
And that's assuming it's only using the asphalt.
Exactly. Right.
And like we said,
so it would have to be hurdling fences and
going through the grass. Being a hunter, you'd pick up some sort of track, at least a track, something knocked over, something in the grass. It's not going to perfectly follow your pathway, which isn't a straight line, by the way.
No, my driveway is a snaking driveway, and so this thing's just disappeared, right? So now I'm in interrogation mode. So I go in and I'm talking to my wife and I asked her, I said, what do you think you saw? I mean, give me an idea of what you saw. And she's like, I told you, it's 7 to 8 feet tall. It's huge across the shoulders. It's black. And it was just standing there, staring, And I'm like, I just looked at her and said, you lucky dog. You got to see a Bigfoot. You witnessed a Bigfoot. Well, she loses her mind. It's not a Bigfoot. I said, well, what was it then? I mean, come on. What do you know in nature that is that big? Because let's face it, most of the grizzly bears around here, they aren't that big, right? I mean, a big bear is 700-800 pounds. Most of them are in the 300-pound range.
Right.
And so when you're looking at something standing 8 feet tall and huge across the shoulders, I mean, we're talking about a pretty good sized animal here. And since there was just no evidence of it even being there, when I ran out, it makes you wonder if it was a Bigfoot, even a Bigfoot, how did the Bigfoot run off the property so fast, which kind of brings you back into that whole demonic, spiritual kind of a thing.
Interdimensional.
So now I'm thinking, geez, I go out and feed the horses every night. And if this thing's out there, maybe I need to start taking a firearm with me.
Yeah. And if it's black, how would you know?
How would you know?
Pitch black out here when you're feeding them at night.
Exactly. Well, you've done it for me when I've been gone.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of intimidating, right?
Yeah. Well, like you said earlier, you got a lot of animals on the property. You and I both have witnessed cougars out here, mountain lions.
Yeah.
Seen them on the property.
Right.
Ducking down, tracking us.
Yeah.
Running back in the house.
You had the one that was out there watching you from the tree line.
Exactly.
Bobbing its head up and down and looking around.
So if you got something else that doesn't want to be seen, that's pitch black, it'd be easy for it to be 20 feet away from you, just behind a tree.
Oh, yeah. I've got the pine trees and stuff out there that it can hide behind. But yeah, so she will deny it, basically. I guess you could say she'll deny it to this day that she did not see a Bigfoot. But she can't explain what she saw, right? Well, I can.
Yeah, it's a Bigfoot.
It's a Bigfoot. There's absolutely no doubt about it.
Just to reiterate, she is a staunch non-believer to the point she calls us both nut jobs because we believe this stuff. So
you remember a long time ago when we were going to go hunt the dog man.
Oh,
and before I get tortured by PETA members or animal rights activists. I mean, hunt with a camera and locate and find.
Just get some evidence.
Not go out and kill. But yeah, she was like, I don't believe in that, but you guys aren't going. I'm like, why not? And she's like, well, because if it does exist, it'll kill you guys. And I'm like, okay, so then you believe that
She knows it's out there.
She knows exactly.
She just doesn't want to admit it.
That's right. And so Bigfoot exists too. There's no doubt in my mind that that's what she saw. That's what was here. Because I'm not even done with the story yet. And bottom line is, after she sees Bigfoot, we get nothing, right?
Right.
Now, and I know a lot of our listeners are going to say, well, this guy, why didn't he just put up some trail cams or something and catch it? Well, I did. The problem is my batteries were dead within 2 days because I have deer, like 50 deer a day.
Constantly throughout the property.
Yeah. And so, and I probably should have just put it on photograph, but I put it on the little video clip, because if you get a Bigfoot, I don't want a still image of it crossing, right?
Or the close-up one where you just see the hair.
Yeah, you see one eyeball or something. Everybody says hoax.
Yeah, that's a mask.
So I thought I'm going to put it on video. So if it trips it, I get a 3 to 7 second video of this thing walking by, right? Well, every day I went out. Batteries were dead. I'd pull the card, watch the video of it, and it was deer. A fox here and there, a skunk, or, an owl flew by and triggered it, and then it would run a video of nothing, for 7 seconds, and it just wear the batteries out. And I think mine takes like 8 to 10 AA's or something, and you're burning through those at 19.
20 Costco packs later, you're done.
Exactly. And so, the bottom line is I never got any footage or any evidence that there was a Bigfoot, but there's no doubt in my mind that's what she saw in our driveway. So let's fast forward another 3 years goes by, right? And nothing, no vocalizations, no nothing. It's out there, right? It was still using my property, I'm sure, to go down to the river and whatnot. I've heard the horses lose their minds at night. And again, that could be a cougar. It could be
bear,
anything,
all that stuff,
But seeing is how we had, we've heard the calls and then we actually saw it. Or I say we, I wish I would have.
Yeah.
I don't know, that could haunt your dreams, I suppose.
I'll deal with the sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Just so I can say.
Just so I can say I saw it. Exactly. But she gets the benefit of that. So 3 years later, it's late spring 2019, right? And I think that was probably a wet year here. I think it rained quite a bit because I hadn't been able to mow the yard. And I typically try and mow the yard. I have like natural grasses in the back, and then I have the manicured lawn, around the house. So that I can usually do, but it gets to be quite a chore to get all the...
Especially when it's wet, yeah.
Yeah, because it ruins your mower blades quickly. And so I had actually gone and bought one of those big brush hogs, put on my tractor, and I figured I'll go out there and knock this stuff down because it had to be 3 to 3.5 feet high, the grass. It was already starting to die off, right? It was August, so it was already getting yellow and semi-brittle. So I hop on the tractor and I drive way out to the back of the property. And as I'm heading kind of eastwardly across the property, I notice ahead that there's like this clearing in the grass, kind of like a crop circle, right? The grass had all been pushed down. And so I drive over to it and I notice that it's kind of in an elliptical shape, right? So it's not like a perfect circle, but
right.
So at its breadth, I would say it was about 15 feet across. So at the main part of the ellipse, it's about 15 feet across, and it's probably around, I'd say, 8 to 10 feet on the narrow end of the ellipse. And all the grass has been pushed down nicely. Well, a lot of animals bed down in grass, right?
Yeah.
So if that was all there was to it, then I would have just thought this is just a whole bunch of deer.
Laying down, yeah.
We're bedding down there. But right in the middle of this bedded area, there's 3 dead deer carcasses that had been eaten and the legs were broken off. I mean, snapped. What does that? I've been trying to think about that, but what actually does that?
And what does it that close to somebody's property?
Right.
Mountain lion, bear, they're going to take their kill off into their own little area and eat it. They're not going to stay right next to horses where people are walking. And
exactly. And then I started thinking about, I'm not an animal expert, but
Same.
I do know enough that if it was a cougar, which is a carnivore, obviously they're going to, we heard a mountain lion chasing deer across our yard one night. It was doing that, the growl, the loud.
which is horrifying to hear.
It's horrifying. And then I found some the sheds, in the yard where I don't know if they fought with it and knocked the antlers off or whatnot, but I did find some shed horn. But a cougar typically hides in the grass. They don't bed down and
give away
and I'm
its
sorry,
concealment.
they're just not that big, right? Not to make a 15-foot bedded area. And then I started thinking, okay, well, bears do though, right? You can definitely see where bears leave marks in the ground where they've been laying down, just a lot of times from their sheer weight. But the more I looked at this, the more I thought, well, bears don't really have the ability to snap bones in half. And then before everybody says, yes, they do, I get that, they can push down with their paw and pull up with their snout and break things and shred meat and all that kind of stuff. But these legs appeared as if you were to grab it in two hands and snap it like a popsicle stick.
Yeah.
And then eat it like a chicken wing and then just throw it back into the center. And it just didn't make any sense to me. And a lot of times, grizzly bears will bury their prey, not literally dig holes, but they'll throw things on top of it and kind of cover it up, come back to it later kind of a thing. Whereas these three deer were eaten, and they were small. They were small deer. But they were eaten. A lot of it was just bone. The heads were left, the pelts were there, and bones just snapped and then thrown back into the pile. And that's what kind of threw me.
And to add on to it, let's say it did make sense for it to be a random animal. To me, not to be biased, but it doesn't make sense when you have the previous stories about the calls, about her seeing one, calls on multiple occasions.
Yes.
It's all too coincidental.
It's way too coincidental. And still not done, right?
Right. That's right.
And so I'm kind of freaked out about this, the grass, right? I actually go in and I tell my wife, hey, I'm sorry, but that Bigfoot's back. And then I get are you going to start with this? And I'm like, no, honey, the grass back there. I mean, there's something huge that has been bedding down and using our property to sit and eat animals. And it's probably been sitting back there watching us through our windows while it's eating, and I mean, it's that close to us and we didn't see it or hear it. It's just, it kind of freaked me out. And then at this point, I'm really literally thinking, when I go out at night to feed the horses in the pitch black, I need to start taking a firearm with me.
Yep.
Not even that it would necessarily do any good. I don't have bear spray, even though I should. I mean, you don't live in Montana without bear spray, right? But
right.
I didn't have any. So I started taking a firearm with me, thinking, I don't know what it was. I know that it's a Bigfoot, but I mean, I can't definitively say that yet. And I've got to protect myself just feeding my horses on my own property. Then I'm thinking, what kind of a home did we buy here? That we're being tortured by Bigfoot. And then, watching all the movies Exists and Hoax and, all kinds of, because I love those Bigfoot movies, And I started thinking, man, I'm living the life.
Yeah.
I've got it here on my property and I can't prove it yet. So, this is spring of 2019, right? And so in August of 2019, so just maybe a month after I locate these carcasses, out in the back end of my property, I walked out the front of my house and immediately noticed footprints going across my property heading out towards the river, and it was in dead grass. Okay, so it left a fairly good print. And it's bipedal, number one. Number two, I measured them out, 15-inch footprints, which isn't overly big, right? I mean, I wear a size 12 boot.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, toes. There were clear impression of toe prints.
I remember when you sent me the picture. I was in shock.
Uncanny.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable is what it is.
Yeah.
First off, I don't know anybody with a 15-inch foot. Okay, I know there's people that have big feet. But the toe impressions, the fact that it was almost like one foot in front of the other. So when most people walk, you don't like swing your foot out to the front of your other
Right,
foot.
there's that gap in between
There's
them.
the gap in between. There wasn't a whole lot of gap on it. I mean, there was some, so you could definitely tell it's bipedal. It was definitely not something on all fours. And the fact that it left these nice toe impressions, right? And a good heel impression too. Now, of course, later you find out that on all these Bigfoot prints and the ones that are hoaxes, you can tell it's a cardboard cutout or a wooden cutout or whatnot, and it's a pure impression. These impressions were not fake. It wasn't somebody torturing us, and coming out and doing this on purpose and trying to make us think that it was a print. These are definite impressions in the ground on hard ground, crushing down what little bit of grass there was, because I had just recently mowed it, so it wasn't like it was really high. So it was heavy enough to leave impressions in dead or dying grass. And all the way to the fence, up over the fence and off to the river it goes.
Yeah.
And so now I'm thinking, okay, so my wife saw one. I heard one. I had dead animals in my backyard with a 15-foot radius bedding down in the high grass, which is only, how far would you say that is from my house? Probably 180 feet.
Give or take,
maybe
yeah.
200 feet or so.
About that.
Yeah, so now all of a sudden I got footprints to go with it.
And to back it up, the people who have the size 15,
Yeah.
how many of them are walking barefoot through your property, jumping fences to go to the river? Because there's nothing else over there but
No. It's just
woodlands and river.
Woodlands and river. That's
Yeah.
right. There's nothing over there for anybody to go to. So yeah, it was pretty mind blowing. And then all I could think of was, well, what if maybe it was a bear, and while it's walking on its 4 feet, the hind feet are hitting the front feet perfectly, and making a longer impression or something. So I took it to a buddy of mine who actually makes money filming bears and stuff out in the Lamar Valley and whatnot. And I said, here, what do you think about these prints? And he just shook his head. He goes, it's not a bear, I can tell you that right now. And I'm like, well, what do you think it is? He goes, well, first off, bears don't have 5 toes in the order of a human toe like that, And so I just said, well, what do you think that is? And he said, well, it's a person or something. And I said, what do you think about Bigfoot? Of course, there goes the eyebrow and the, here's one of these nuts again.
Exactly.
And so he said, well, if they exist, I would say it was one then, because that's not a bear print. So I'm like, okay, well, now I know. In my mind, I know I have a Bigfoot on my property, right?
Right.
Despite the fact that everybody would say, no, you don't.
Yeah, you're a nut job, and
Yeah, I'm a nut
quit
job.
watching TV and movies. You
Yeah.
clearly lost your mind, old man.
Exactly. Kind of going back to that whole pheasant thing.
Exactly,
I
yeah.
can't prove it, but by golly, there's a Bigfoot
There's
on my
just
property.
too many coincidences.
Yeah,
It's too many.
It's too much. And I'm still not done. If it stopped there and it's never happened since, I might have said, we're good. Maybe it's, who knows what it is, but it's not a Bigfoot.
Right.
But it is. Okay. And it is because after I shoot pictures of these footprints, it's like jump forward like another 2 years or something like that. I think this was in 2021. It was after the whole COVID thing. People have been trapped in their homes and wearing masks and living a horrible life. I refused, because being in Montana, I figured, there's nothing wrong with going fly fishing and there's no one out there and I'm not going to catch it, out there in the wilderness. So I was constantly out and about anyway. I just wasn't one of those people that was going to freak out. If I caught it and died, I caught it and died, but I was going to live my life.
That's
by
right.
golly.
Living free.
So I'm driving out of my property and one of my neighboring properties, he's standing out. I kind of almost looks semi-panic stricken, like flagging me down like he needed help almost, right? So I stop and I said, "Hey, what's up?" And he says, "Hey, I just wanted to give you a warning, man. I was out on my property last night." And he said, and he's got this like, for lack of a better term, it's like a little berm
right
on the back end of his property because his son used to like to ride motorcycles and stuff, and he'd like jump the little berm and whatnot. And so, and it's a fairly good size, little hill in the back. And he says, I was outside and
just to give people an idea, it's probably 4 to 5 feet, give or take 4 feet from the flat part of the ground.
Yeah, probably about 4 feet high.
Okay.
And definitely wide enough that I'm going to say 7 to 10 feet.
Give or take. Yeah, that sounds right.
And so he says, I'm outside and I think he was going out to feed chickens or something like that. And he notices movement, but it's nighttime. So he says, I just kind of felt like something was watching me. And I said, of course, you know what I'm thinking. But I mean, I'll hear you out.
Yeah.
What do you got to say? And he's like, something was watching me from like the back end of the property. And he says, all I had with me was my phone. So I flick the little flashlight app on and I raise it up. And he says, there's this huge head and the eyes, and he's doing an indication. And what would you say that is? A good 10 inches?
10 inches, yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like holding his fingers up like an okay sign, trying to show me about the size of the eyes. And he says they're about this far apart, and it just this huge head staring at me. And I said, well, what do you think it was? And he says, well, my first thought was cougar. And I'm thinking, I don't know any cougars that have a 10-inch span between their eyes. I mean, that'd be a big cat.
Yeah.
Right. And I suppose
it's possible, I guess.
It's possible. I'm not going to say it is impossible. Somebody will get on and show me a picture or something of a cougar with a 10-inch eye span. But nonetheless, I was thinking, it's not a cougar, So, but I'm not saying anything out loud to him. And he's like, it was probably that retinal flash that you get, when when a flash goes off on a camera and people's eyes turn red. But he's like, it had red eyes. And of course, I'm getting kind of the willies.
Right.
And he's like, it was red eyes. It was huge. And it ducks down behind that berm. And he said, I just figured I'm done with that. He says, I ran into the house as fast as I could go. And I was too afraid to go back out and see what it was. And I said, well, I kind of don't blame you on that. You know me though, Jake, I would have grabbed an AR-15 or something and been on my way out there.
I'm dying getting that picture.
That's right. One way or the other. But anyway, so I just looked at him and I said, let me ask you something. Do you believe in Bigfoot? And, up goes the eyebrow.
Of course,
here comes the whole nut scenario.
They do that thing where they don't want to be rude to you, but at the same time, they're like, all right, guy.
Exactly. So he says, well, he's just kind of laughing. And I said, well, let me tell you. So I relate all the things that I've said up to this point, that my wife saw one, my daughter heard one. I've got pictures of footprints. So I said, I actually had them on my phone at the time. So I said, come here. Let me show you these footprints because they're actually coming from your property too.
across my property and over to the river. So he looks at him and he says, I don't know. And I'm like, it's a Bigfoot. You got a Bigfoot out there. And of course, now he's freaked out, and I'm freaking myself out thinking,
Right.
If it was out there again, I mean, because it's been a couple of years, since I've seen or heard, any evidence of it.
And again, this is not far from where you feed those horses at night.
No. I mean, you literally a stone's throw, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've gone out there and shot at little ground squirrels and stuff, so that it's not far away. We're using a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
If you remember that. It's just that thing is out here, and it probably watches me at night. And like I said, a lot of our listeners are going to think, oh, these people are just insane. But I'm telling you, if you spend any time here on my property over the course of, what's it been now? 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years, this thing keeps coming back and doing stuff, right? Now, the last incident takes place October of 23. Okay, so this was not very long
Not
ago.
long ago at all, yeah.
Right? And this one, I can't explain. I had to leave. I had to leave town. I was actually heading to, I think I was in Nashville or something. But my wife stayed here. She was still working. And so I had stacked up a bunch of hay for her to feed the horses. That way she didn't have to pull it off the main pile.
Make it easy. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like 80-pound bales, and she's pretty small. So I did try to help her out the best I could, stack it right over by the horses, and all she had to do was maybe, cut a bale and throw it over the fence for them, kind of thing. So I stacked up enough. I think I was gone for about a week. So we have 5 horses, and the stack was pretty good size. So I usually feed like 2 bales a day to the horses. And so since I was gone for like 7 days or something, I think I'd stacked up like 14, maybe 16 bales of hay. So they were fairly high. And she goes out one night and she's going to get that, top bale off, knock it off. And she sees this horse hoof, right? Just like a little piece that had broken off.
Yeah.
Well, my dogs love those. As soon as they see, horse hoof, they grab them and run back into the house with them and gnaw on them and whatnot. And anytime the farrier's out and trims off pieces, the horses love to eat it. I'm sorry, not the horses. The dogs.
Yeah.
The dogs love
all
to
dogs.
eat it.
Yeah, love that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So she sees this little semicircle of a horse hoof. We have a big draft horse, and so it's a pretty good size chunk of hoof. So she takes it off the hay. She flings it out somewhere onto the property, right? Just chucks it.
Yeah, getting rid of it. Get it out of the way.
Yeah, like you'd skip a stone on a pond, just bing, flings it out there somewhere. Feeds the horses, comes back into the house. The next day she goes out. The horse hoof is back on top of the hay. So she's kind of freaked out about it, right? So she calls me and she says, hey, something really weird happened. I went out to feed the horses and there was a hoof on top of the hay pile. And I said, well, I didn't put it there. I stacked that hay. And she's like, yeah, well, I didn't think anything of it. So I just threw it. And tonight when I went out, it's back on top of the hay. And I'm like, oh, that's very odd. I don't know what would do that. Most dogs would pick it up and run off with it and not jump up on top of a hay pile and chew on it and eat it. But okay, let's just chalk that up to a weird event. And maybe it was the neighbor's dog or something. It wasn't ours because ours were kenneled. And
would have eaten it.
And would have eaten it.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So just trying to make her feel good about it. You know where I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately.
But you're hundreds of miles away, so.
yeah, I'm 1,800 miles away. I can't help her out. There's nothing and she's terrified anyway. When I'm not home, she doesn't like it. Or at least that's what she tells me. She probably enjoys the heck out of it. But
peace and quiet.
Peace and quiet. But I'm thinking, okay, so maybe Bigfoot's messing with you, if they're intelligent creatures, maybe he's just having fun with you. But
kind of worried at the same time. I don't want her out there at night.
Right.
So she calls me the next day. Guess what? What? That hoof is back on top of the hay pile. And I'm like, there's no way. She's like, I keep taking it off and chucking it out, further and further, and it's back on top of the hay. And I'm like, don't worry, Annie. It's just the dogs.
It's got to be the dogs.
It's got to be the dogs. What else could it be, right? And so this goes on 5 nights in a row. Whatever it was. And, I live in an area where there's not going to be a lot of people, right?
Right.
And secondly, who is going to look all through acreage and look through grass to try and find a piece of horse hoof to put on top of a hay pile 5 nights in a row just to mess with some poor woman that's home alone?
Well, clearly it's got to be the 8-foot tall, barefooted, 15 size shoe, 10-inch eye spread serial killer that's out to get her.
Exactly.
Who else could it be but him?
What else could it be? And so when I got home, I told her, I said, I'm glad you're okay, but that was a Bigfoot. She's like, you told me it was the neighbor's dog. I said, what am I supposed to tell you? Bigfoot's out there, you wouldn't feed the horses.
Yeah.
I mean, so anyway, these are my personal accounts, and that was it. And since October of 23, which wasn't that long ago,
yeah,
I haven't seen or heard from it. I've seen no evidence. But if over the course of 10 years we've had all these incidents on our property, there's no doubt in my mind that it's not gone, that something else is going to come up. And if it does, in a future podcast, I'll certainly talk about it. But
there's just no way all those things are that coincidental.
yeah. So,
It's too much.
what's your thought on that? I mean, what could it possibly be?
Well, it's like we said with the hooves, the dogs eat those up. They go crazy for them.
Yeah.
They bug the farrier when he's out there to get them, and then they take off.
Yeah, they sell them at pet shops.
Yeah.
You got the cow hooves and all that kind of stuff for them to chew on.
Plus, what dog is going to go, oh, this lady clearly lost her horse hoof. Let me get it back on the hay pile for her.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
And
the intelligence level just isn't there for that to happen.
And to back it up, your neighbor, he's a hunter as well.
Yes.
Now, I get he's probably trying to write off that 10-inch eye span as a cougar to maybe make him rationalize it because he's probably a non-believer based on your guys' story, but he would have known if it was a bear with that big of a spread, and he knows it's too big for a mountain lion.
Right. Well, and then when you think about just how eyes work anyway, on predators versus prey.
Right, they're in the front.
If they're in the front. So, a grizzly bear and cougars and stuff, their eyes are straight forward so that they can focus on prey. Whereas prey, they're more out towards the sides so that they have a better peripheral view, right? So if you're looking at a 10-inch spread of 2 eyes that are looking directly at you, that's a big creature.
Yeah, that's huge.
And for him to be able to see it in the dark, the head that big and duck down, so it was aware that it was being looked at. Not that any animal isn't,
Right.
Geez, I've been out antelope hunting and they're 1,000 yards away and they spot you and take off
those
running.
things, yeah.
But it's, in my opinion, the only thing that it could be. And you know what? If anybody listening has any idea or a concept or clue of what I could be dealing with out here, hey, feel free.
Yeah, let us know.
Let us know. Give me some input. Make me feel a little bit better. I mean, on one hand, I hope it is a Bigfoot, and I hope I get to see it someday. On the other hand, it's terrifying.
Let's not forget that your vocalizations were also confirmed.
Yes, they were. Yeah, good point. I forgot to bring that up. So I love to do research on, like we said in our intro, we've been loving these cryptid things and wanting to go on these hunts and missions, for the last 10 plus years.
Yep.
So I do a lot of research on stuff. And while researching information on Bigfoot and sightings and, where like Montana ranks in sightings, which we've only had 53 reported sightings. Oh, but what goes along with that is I didn't report it. I've given 7, 8 accounts.
Right.
And I've reported nothing. And so when you think about the average person probably doesn't report things, I'm sure there's way more than 53. And there have been significant sightings that actually brought that program, Finding Bigfoot, to Bozeman. And I think they were in Ennis. And I think they were out in like the Mission Mountains or something out towards Kalispell and Missoula area. There was a lot of sightings over in the northwest portion of Montana. So there's been enough sightings and reports in Montana, that kind of validates it, right? And so I thought, well, I'm going to take a look at the BFRO.org or whatever it is. I think that's the site.
I think that's what it's called, yeah.
And I looked at it, and lo and behold, a horse rancher lives out just west of me, reported hearing Bigfoot vocalizations, and he was so terrified by it that he did not investigate, and he was worried about his horses.
Well, you got to imagine when you heard them, they were west of you.
Yes.
And if he's west of you, it was probably even louder where he's at. So
exactly. And so his account was that it was so frightening that he was too afraid to even get a firearm to go look because he just knew. Well, he obviously thought it was a Bigfoot because he reported it to the Bigfoot Research Organization.
Right.
And so when I saw that, I thought, wow, that's the same time frame that I heard it and my daughter heard it. And so somebody reported it. We didn't. He did. And I thought, man, I'm vindicated.
Yep.
And validated as far as I'm concerned. And so anyway, there's no doubt in my mind that it's out there. And if anybody's got something that they can expand on or, let us know, I'd really love to hear about that. But that's it. That's my account of Bigfoot on my property. Bigfoot Crossing. I might as well just put a sign out in my yard that's what it is. If you want to come see a Bigfoot, come on over to my place. But you got anything else, Jake?
No, I think that's it. Touched on it all pretty well. But again, if people have comments or questions about it, just let us know. We'll try to touch on it more for you. Exactly.
Well, so that'll wrap up for this week's episode. Now, I think in the beginning here, this is our first episode. I think we're probably going to go bi-weekly for the time being until it kind of takes off a little bit, and then we'll go more probably weekly. So I'm thinking that we'll probably post on Thursdays or Fridays.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Sound good? Yeah. I think our next episode is going to be, it's going to be one near and dear to my heart. The Gnomes of Porterville.
I can't wait. I'm so excited for that one.
Yeah.
I was excited for this one, but that one, I can't wait.
That one creeps me out because there's no doubt in my mind it's real.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of get into that, on the next podcast. But anyway, so that is it for today. And hopefully you will join us for the next podcast of The Gnome of Porterville.
Thanks for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show and you want to help us out, then go ahead and give us a follow, leave us a review, and don't forget to turn on the automatic download button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And as always, if you've had any experiences, stories, thoughts, comments, or questions, we'd love to hear from you. Send us an email to cryptidfanatic@gmail.com. Let us know if you'd like to be on the show or just have your story featured during one of our episodes.